Sports Shuffle after what I think might have been the most chaotic first week of fantasy playoffs I can remember. I am Flying Ryan Gilchrist along with.
Tampa Motormouth Joel Verlin still trying to figure out how the bleep I won in the 16-team league.
Yeah, Joel has survived the 16-teamer as the 7 seed. Three of the top 4 seeds went down this week. The only surviving higher seed is the 1 seed, me. Zach, who was part of our preseason draft experimentation practices. He is my opponent this week. He was the 5 seed, and then a buddy of mine, Corey, that I've known for almost 25 years, is a 6 seed. So not
Newlywed Zach.
Newlywed Zach, absolutely. Not an easy accomplishment to just be the final 4 in the 16-teamer, being how deep, and I mean, it takes a lot of luck just to have your guys not all get healthy or beat up. I have Tyreek Hill and Brian Robinson and Jonathan Taylor that all missed last week, and I still put up almost 150 points. So I might have a very good chance of winning that one this year. Joe, also, we both survived in the 10-team league. The 2 we live drafted, we're in the final 4. The ones behind me, I've got 8 teams still in the playoffs. The blue check marks mean I am in. Only lost 1 team last week, and that was because I got Kenneth Walker on Monday night because Tyler Lockett couldn't match up with him. But yeah.
F for Zach Charbonnet owners.
Yeah, Charbonnet, not so good. I was in every league that was in the playoffs that had matchups complete this week because there are 3 ESPNs behind me that are 2-week playoffs because ESPN is great. Every league other than one, the lowest seed that qualified for the playoffs won their matchup. So a completely chaotic, insane first week of the fantasy playoffs. We still have 2 more, and if you're an ESPN, possibly 3 more. But an exciting week and some big news with Jonathan Taylor being a full participant in a practice that didn't actually happen today, but he is now considered healthy. He should be back this week. Tyreek Hill was pushing to play. He should be back next week in a big game against Dallas.
Shocking news, Aaron Rodgers probably not coming back in 23.
Aaron Rodgers, he came out and kind of shelved himself because the Jets, after the game against Miami,
are mathematically eliminated. Have you heard about Aaron on a shelf?
Yeah, Aaron on the shelf, and the Jets are eliminated. Yeah, crazy week that started with a crazy Thursday night game. So let's get into the recaps. Quickly going back to Thursday night, the Raiders 63-21 win over the formerly Brandon Staley-led Los Angeles Chargers. Of course, they fired their head coach the following day because you give up 63 to a division rival who is not even that good of a team.
And you're the only team playing that night as everybody has their eyes on you.
Yeah, hot seat showcase game, lose to a division rival who has no shot at the playoffs. Yeah, that's a good recipe to get fired very, very quickly, and that's what happened with Brandon Staley. Chargers 5-9. I believe they're officially eliminated from the playoffs as well. Raiders still with a snowball's chance and heck of getting in.
That'd be the Vince McMahon song. You got no chance, no chance in heck.
Yeah. Next up, going to Saturday.
But from that game, of course, yeah. Up, definitely Josh Palmer. Possible, stashable person for your semis. And the down. Such a disappointment this year, Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, Keenan Allen, very questionable for next week. It looks like Josh Jacobs will be back for the Raiders, so that is good news. But Austin Ekeler has completely disappeared. Now on to Saturday.
How down has Austin Ekeler gone? He's third string behind Isaiah Spiller and Joshua Kelly.
Yeah, running out the 28, 29-year-old running back with 3 games left in their lost season versus finding out what they have behind them. They're going to find out what they have on this roster. I don't think Austin Ekeler's going to be back next season. They have to rebuild at this point. They've got too many good pieces that
aren't they in like cap hell?
They are, but getting rid of players like Austin Ekeler and a couple guys on the defense that just have a high payroll because, again, it's a bad defense, bad offense. Of course, now they sign Justin Herbert to a monster deal, so they might be in cap hell for a very long time. And once you're in cap hell, it's hard to get out once you've paid that quarterback like that. Anyways.
We're like Bill Belichick, we're on to Cincinnati.
On to Cincinnati as Jake Browning gets revenge on the team that cut him without telling him as he beats the Minnesota Vikings 27-24, leading a fourth quarter comeback for the ages, a T. Higgins touchdown on a stretch that Well, frankly, just would make Stretch Armstrong look pretty embarrassed because he couldn't do what he did. It was an amazing touchdown for T. Higgins that led this game to overtime. But Jake Browning coming in and saving the Bengals season as they get the win. They're 8-6. The Vikings lose, retain a playoff spot at 7-7. But the Bengals, I think, have a legitimate chance of making the playoffs, and that's something we thought was dead in the water when Joe Burrow got hurt.
Yeah, up definitely for this game. If you've stashed him, finally, Ty Chandler seized the moment, totaling 157 all-purpose yards and 1 touchdown on 26 touches. Boom shakalaka. And of course, the down. Yeah, Mr. Jamar Chase. He was having a solid day, but was forced to leave the game towards the end of the fourth quarter with a shoulder injury. He was unable to play in overtime and was in a sweatshirt on the sideline. Sad fantasy noises.
And he has already been ruled out for week number 16. So if you have Jamar Chase, you will need to make other arrangements because he will not be available to help you get to your championship weeks. Next up,
we're going to Indy.
Yeah, next up, a team in the same division as the Bengals going the opposite direction. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, even though they fired Matt Canada, the offense still looks like crap. Imagine that with Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and now coming up.
Shocking. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, who would have thought bad quarterback play makes an offense bad? You have the worst blocking wide receiver core in the league in Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, the effortless twins, as they lose 30-13 to the Indianapolis Colts. The Steelers were so bad in this game. Trey Sermon looked like an all-pro. That is the backup to the backup behind Jonathan Taylor. Zach Moss left this game with an injury. And, I think it was Goodson and Trey Sermon. I don't even know who Goodson is, but he was the number 4 running back. He looked like an all-pro against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who didn't look like an all-pro? Pretty much anybody on the Pittsburgh Steelers side of the football. Najee Harris, terrible once again. This team looks like it just doesn't want to compete, and they're 7-7. They're still in the playoffs. First, they had a playoff spot before this game. The Colts, now at 8-6, have taken that playoff spot. The Steelers, 3 very tough matchups, including this weekend against Cincinnati, then Seattle, then Baltimore. A real possibility that the Pittsburgh Steelers, for the first time under Mike Tomlin, will finish below 500.
Yeah, up definitely. Colts DST boom, as this defense isn't stopping any teams from scoring, but the amount of sacks, takeaways, and touchdowns they have scored since week 9 is unmatched. They have had 25 sacks, 4 fumbles, and 9 interceptions over that time. Pretty good play for redraft leagues.
Yeah, the Colts, number 4 defense for fantasy this year so far.
The down, oh yeah. Mr. George Pickens. He watched multiple plays as the ball carrier went past him, and he made 0 effort to throw a block. Najee had a missed score on the goal line simply because Pickens refused to even put hands on his defender as Najee Harris owners, and you better believe Najee Harris had some words with him after the game.
Yeah, Najee Harris was actually cut for a defense in a playoff matchup in a league I'm in. That league I was starting Keaton Mitchell, so I am definitely claiming one Najee Harris, but man, desperate times where he can be cuttable. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of competition getting him because he's been that bad of late. The Steelers just, I hate to say it, they need Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett it's like the Jets with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson sucks, but he is the best option that team has right now because Aaron Rodgers is hurt. Kenny Pickett might suck, but he's the best option Pittsburgh has. Got him winning. And, I think Pittsburgh might be stumbling, fumbling, bumbling right into a losing record.
It's slim Pickens, yay for the Steelers.
Speaking of slim pickings, I picked the Broncos and you picked the Broncos on this next game, and that was bad. Detroit Lions 42-17 over the Denver Broncos. Jared Goff 5 touchdown passes, 3 of which to Sam Laporta, the rookie tight end, is number 1 in most fantasy leagues right now for total points. At the tight end position, Jahmyr Gibbs also had a very big game. Amon-Ra St. Brown did what Amon-Ra St. Brown typically does.
Just say,
Cortland Sutton.
Just say
Of
the Sun
course.
God.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton, also a very solid game for the Broncos, but the Broncos they ran into a team in the Lions that are just frankly better than they were. The Lions play the Vikings this week with a win, will clinch their first NFC North title ever, because the last time they won a division, it was the NFC Central in 1993.
Yeah, the up definitely has to be, you already mentioned him, Sam Laporta. You know, if you have him, any shares of him, you are definitely a very happy fantasy manager. As rookie TA added yet another impressive game to his resume, finding the end zone for a trio of scores. There's a good chance this will be Laporta's third TE1 overall week of the season. There's a real case to be made that he is a dynasty TE1 if he wasn't already. Just absolute boom gold standard.
Yeah, Sam Laporta is the tight end 1 in most of the leagues I'm in, tight end 3 in like full PPR. I got him early this season in a trade. I got Sam Laporta, a 3rd and a 4th round pick for George Kittle. Seems like an absolute highway robbery type of thing. He went in the 2nd round in some dynasty drafts that I was in. He has just been on another level. And if you have him in dynasty, congratulations. You have the next Mark Andrews. You have the next Travis Kelce, the next TJ Hawkinson, and you have him for a very long time. Keep him in mind next year. Don't fall into the Kelce trap. We'll get to Kelce's game a little bit later, but Kelce, Waller, some of these guys starting to age out a little bit and falling back. It's time for the new guard, and Sam Laporta is the leader of that group right now. Next up to the game of the week.
Can't forget the down.
Oh, we got to go to the downs before you get to the highlight of the weeks.
Yeah, that the whole next game was pretty much one could consider a down, but down for the Broncos and the Lions. Yeah, Russell Wilson. It wasn't a horrible day for Mr. Unlimited, but managers were hoping for more in a matchup against the Lions secondary that has been lit up by opposing QBs in recent weeks. Excuse me, as Russ gets a tough week in Week 16, matching up against the Pats. What could be a sneaky play in Week 17 because they face the lowly Chargers, who, of course, just recently had the Raiders drop a 16 burger on them.
Yeah. Chargers are a great matchup for anybody. All right, next up.
We go to a game that literally had tickets for $4 and maybe about 4 fans, I think, in the stands before the game started.
You could have gotten 8 tickets to this game, handed somebody a $5 bill, and still had enough change to go buy a pack of gum. There are tickets for 45 cents to this game. 45 cents. The tickets were so cheap. Me and some friends that we went to Buffalo earlier this year were like, you guys want to knock Carolina out on the cheap? Because we can all go for like $20 plus gas. Let's just do it. But the Panthers, even though nobody wants to watch them, even though they're the worst team in football, though they're falling apart.
Panthers had a grand slam in the bottom of the 9th to beat up the Falcons bullpen.
Yeah, even though they're terrible, the Panthers beat Arthur Smith, the fantasy Sith, the guy who hates everybody's fantasy players because he had Bijan Robinson totally negative 0.1 in the fantasy playoffs. And if you have Bijan Robinson and it's a one and done format, I have him in ESPN. I have a stacked team. It hurt. I still have a slight lead, but it hurt. But if you have him in a one and done, hopefully you enjoyed your stay in the playoffs because you're likely gone. The Panthers win 9-7 in just the most pathetic game. It was in the rain. We talked about the weather going up the East Coast. This is one of the worst weather situations that they had. But the Panthers 2-12. They're risking the Bears' number 1 overall pick with these late wins. The Falcons, with the loss, fall to 3rd place in the NFC South and put Arthur Smith firmly back on the hot seat. Next week, Taylor Heineke back behind center.
As this game was so bad, my up was Eddie Pinheiro. Kicked 3 field goals in the rain, including the game winner. That's when you know it was a bad game. In the downs, you already mentioned it. Bijan Robinson, just words fail to describe this performance that cost you fantasy points. Granted, not many, but still cost you fantasy points. Offenses, none not to be found. Utterly speechless as I was listening to the Rich Eisen show, and it's just hard to believe that Arthur Smith may be coming back next year. But even though both teams did outscore the Jets, so there's that. And hold the iPhone. I'll get more Smith in my final thought.
Yeah, for fantasy purposes, at the very least, I would suggest if Arthur Smith is the head coach next year, avoid the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, I think, is going to have a very, very, very bright career,
Can you
but
imagine
it's going to take a competent coach to unlock that.
somebody who tried a Charger and Falcon stack this year?
Yeah, moment of silence for that person who probably went mostly winless. All right, next up,
my old friend.
Next up, the Browns 20-17 win over the Chicago Bears because Darnell Mooney can't catch a ball that literally fell into his lap on a last-second Hail Mary. Joe Flacco, 3 turnovers early and then a dominant fourth quarter to bring the Bears' downfall right to fruition as the Browns come back. Browns 9-5 are the number 5 seed in the AFC. Starting to get a little bit of separation in the AFC. At least not everybody's at 7-6 anymore. The Bears, with this loss, really put a damper on their playoff hopes. They still would have been a game back because 7-7 is the benchmark right now for that 7 seed. But Darnell Mooney drop kicks to an interception on the final play of the game. The Bears lose. The Bears still suck.
Yep. Joe Flacco played a mostly ugly game, but he still finished $3.74 yards and a pair of touchdowns, as well as the win. He'll take that any day of the week, especially if it's Sunday. And the down, that would be the Bears regime. They were riding a hot streak. What's a hot streak? A hot streak. And you got the coach, OC, and QB. We're hoping that they save their jobs. Instead, everybody is scratching their heads and wondering what's coming next.
Yeah, the next 3 weeks, the Bears is really going to be evaluation of Justin Fields, this coaching staff, and seeing what they need to do. I don't think Justin Fields is the problem. I think they need to work on that offensive line, get him some help in the running game. Deonta Foreman, 6 carries for -6 yards. I saw a fantasy matchup where a player won by less than half a point because the other player started Deonta Foreman, who got him -0.6. And if they had just started Bijan Robinson and his paltry -0.1, he would have won the game.
You gotta love fantasy playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you have DJ Moore and Cole Kmet who are great, but they don't have a good running back. They don't have a wide receiver too. Robert Tonyan dropped the wide open ball in this game. We've talked about Darnell Mooney and the Hail Mary. Only 2 interceptions for Justin Fields. We're on Hail Marys at the end of half, so I don't think Justin Fields is the problem. I think they need to work on this defense, work on the offensive line, and get him a little bit more help. They have plenty of draft picks. And, by the way, Marvin Harrison in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. should be someone the Bears go after, I think. Yes, the Bears still suck. Next up.
Appropriate music.
Next up, the Buccaneers. Behind a
shock of the day.
Behind a perfection performance from Baker Mayfield. A 158.3 passer rating day from Baker Mayfield, a guy that Joel at the start of the season made it sound like he was going to be the number 34 quarterback in fantasy out of 32 starters, but he has a flawless day against the Green Bay Packers. The Buccaneers win 34-20
baby.
at Lambeau Field. Joe Barry was the number 1 trending thing on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, because this defense is not so good. The Packers, not the best game. Aaron Jones was back at least, so that's a positive for them. But Chris Godwin back in a big way, his best game of the season. Rachaad White still very good. Mike Evans with another touchdown. Buccaneers 7-7, first place in the NFC South. The Packers 6-8, still in playoff contention, but not a loss that they're going to hopefully regret. But they still have some time. Buccaneers, though, again, 7-7, first place in that sorry NFC South. But someone's got to win, and with Baker Mayfield playing the way he's playing, maybe, just maybe, they can make a little noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, because Baker Mayfield is doing awesome. Derek Carr has good weeks and then has bad weeks. And they can't figure out who the hell is playing for Atlanta with a quarterback. Every time you turn around, It's a new QB. Is it going to be Desmond Ritter this week? Is it going to be Tyler Heineke? Nobody knows.
Well, this week will be Taylor Heineke. Big week 17 matchup between the Bucks and Saints might just determine that division.
Okay, my two big ups for this game. Chris Godwin has come back to fantasy football. Couldn't be stopped. Had over 100 receiving yards in the first half. Always got open and played a big role in the victory. You mentioned him. Baker Mayfield had to be his best game of the season. He overcame an early lost fumble and dominated after that. The downs. Aaron freaking Jones impressed early, but couldn't get anything going in the second half. He might be at cap casualty next year, Very disappointed if you have any shares of him. And second down, you already mentioned him. Also, Joe Barry, because if you don't know, if you don't, ask Packer fans.
Yeah, Joe Barry, I think he lasts the rest of the season because there's only 3 games, but when they miss the playoffs, he will be the scapegoat of this team. They have some injuries on that side of the ball. Jair Alexander's missed some games, and I just think it's a bad unit overall. He's going to get the fall, but he has not been a good coordinator for this team for a number of years. Unfortunately.
Next up, we go to the shellacking in South Beach.
Yeah, the Dolphins, no Tyreek Hill, no Xavier Howard, no Javon Holland, no, they were missing 5 or 6 key players, mostly on the defensive side of the ball, and still pitched a 30-0 shutout over the New York Jets. Jalen Waddle, an absolute monster game in relief, trying to fill in for Tyreek Hill, and he did so. Raheem Mostert tied for the league in touchdowns with 20. Tied was one Christian McCaffrey, by the way, as the Dolphins just dominate the Jets 30-0. Zach Wilson exited this game with a concussion, and he was pressured on 12 of 16 dropbacks before leaving the game injured. 75% of the times he dropped back to pass, he had pressure on him. How are you supposed to be a good quarterback when that's going that way? No wonder Aaron Rodgers saying, I don't think I'm coming back this year, because he would die. He could not escape. Zach Wilson, who is perfectly healthy, could not escape this pass rush. Aaron Rodgers on the torn Achilles, even though he is most of the way back, he would literally get just destroyed in there. Dolphins, 10-4, number 2 seed in the AFC. Very tough matchups to close out the season, coming up with Dallas, Baltimore, and then a big showdown with Buffalo to end the season. But second place in the conference, 10-4, playoffs pretty secure at this point. Jets 5-9 have been eliminated.
Yeah, ups definitely. Tua and Mr. Waddle, they ran absolutely wild all over the Jets. I remember at one point it was total yards. Dolphins, 193. Jets, trace.
Yeah.
Downs, Wilson, so much for that miracle comeback. The Aaron Rodgers for 23. More than likely canceled after the smack it down. And Jets offense, I wonder how many peeps actually drop notable Jets after this total cluster of a game.
Fortunately for the Jets, next week is the Washington Commanders, so an offensive bounce back game is possible, especially for guys like Garrett Wilson, because they don't have a secondary.
I like from the Tom Grossi video the Commanders. We got to do this 3 more times.
Yep, 3 more games. It's all we got is 3 more games. We'll see what happens. Dolphins, again, those 3 tough matchups. If they win one and Buffalo loses one, they will clinch the AFC East. If not, Buffalo can win out. Miami would have to win 2 of their last 3 to clinch it. All right, going on to
the Big Easy.
The Big Easy against the Big Apple and Tommy DeVito, who, he did not have such a good game. Saints win 24-6. No Chris Olave, no problem in this one. The Saints beat up on a lesser opponent. Alvin Kamara still very, very good, but Derek Carr still not getting it done. But the defense for the Saints has shown up in big ways in their wins. They do it once again. The Giants got shut down at every turn. Saquon Barkley with a down game. They have no receivers. Darren Waller did come back, so that's encouraging. But this loss likely ends their season as it is. So it's on to 2024 for the Giants at this point. We'll see what happens with Saquon Barkley, who did sign a 1-year deal, not a franchise tag on the renegotiated contract. Possibly more running back franchise tag drama with him in the offseason. Hopefully not. Maybe we'll be a free agent and go to a team that actually is decent. The Saints, though, 7-7 are tied with the Buccaneers on top of the NFC South. Like I said earlier when we talked about the Bucs, big Week 17 showdown between those two teams in Tampa that will likely determine the winner of that division.
Yeah, up surprisingly, Derek Carr, 3 touchdowns on 134.8 passer rating is the highest he's had all season long. Probably helped to give you a win if you had to stream them.
I can't imagine anybody was that desperate.
And the down, yeah, you already mentioned him. Saquon Barkley, up again, down again. Trend continues. The season lows in carries and rushing yards this week. Season low in targets in the passing game. Wah, wah.
All right, next up, the Tennessee Titans troll the Houston Texans with the old Houston Oilers jersey logo.
Were we in Tennessee? Were we in Houston?
The Titans have a home game. They put Oilers on the field, wear the Houston colors because, of course, the Titans moved from Houston, took the Oilers, the Texans replaced them, but the history left with the Titans. So those are still their logos and colors from their past. Houston was down decently big in this game, and then after the great troll job of putting the old team colors and logos for the opponent city on the field, the Texans come from behind, win in overtime without CJ Stroud. Will Levis likely going to be missing week 16 with an injury incurred in this game. Derrick Henry, the first player in NFL history to have 20 touches and fewer than 15 yards of total offense, an all-time horrible day. And if you're like me and you drafted Derrick Henry this season, you were looking at the playoff matchups when they had 2 games against Houston going, all right, here's what's going to lead us to victory. And he got you garbage in the matchup. But the Texans, 19-16 win, keeps them at 8-6, keeps them tied for first in the AFC South. The Colts also at 8-6. And with hopes of the playoffs. They're not going to have CJ Stroud again in week number 16, but if they can get a win, they can still make a run.
Yeah, he's a waiver wire wonder. My up, of course, Noah Brown has some receivers above him in the depth chart, both of which were not available this game. When he is called upon, he hath delivered. The down, you already mentioned him, unfortunately. Sad Derrick Henry noises outproducing the back by his backfield cohort. Mr. Spears is still a freakish athlete, but yeah, Miles seemed to be catching up to him.
Yeah, he is over 30. He is past his prime for running back. This was likely his last hurrah. He is going to be a free agent in the offseason. It's possible he can go to a team that just has, Raheem Mostert's 31. He's having success. He can go to a good team with a good offensive line and be a very solid player for another year or two. But his days of being a top 5 fantasy running back and a top 5 running back in the NFL, I think, have sadly fallen behind him. And speaking of someone whose days at the top may have gone, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, who get the win.
We go to Foxborough.
Yeah, the Chiefs do get the win 27-17 over the lowly Patriots, but Travis Kelce starting to look like the wheels are falling off of him as well. Father Time is undefeated, as they say, and Travis Kelce is starting to fall behind. He's 34, I believe. Not ancient at tight end, but he's getting up there. And he has been a very active, heavily hit tight end as well. So maybe it's the end for Travis Kelce as a dominant tight end. He's still going to be good. He's still going to get his opportunities, but he's talking about retirement. So we'll see what happens long term. Pat Mahomes, another game out of him. Rashee Rice with a receiving touchdown that was thrown by Jerick McKinnon. Yeah, really ugly game for both teams as the Chiefs do get the win. They do go to 9-5. They're on the cusp of clinching a very soft AFC West, but their hopes of the 1 seed are likely dashed as they are 2 games behind the Ravens with 3 to play.
Yeah, up for this game, Rashee Rice. Yeah, if you picked him up or you managed to draft him for this contingency, he was Mahomes' only reliable option right now, and that includes, as you alluded to, the Kelce injury and being banged up. And yeah, the down. Bailey Zappi looked absolutely freaking-tastic in the first half, but in the second half, he looked like J.P. Lussman.
Yeah. Not a good thing when your best players are starting to look like it's not going well. The Patriots, they've already missed the playoffs. They're already eliminated from that, but they are in contention for the number 1 overall pick. The theory being they would go after a quarterback with their first-round pick. So we'll see what happens there. The Chiefs, though, Isaiah Pacheco looks like he's coming back. Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a good game in relief. Not a great game, but a good game. But it looks like he'll be relegated to the number 3 role here once again very soon.
And we're going to go to Arizona, site of an 8.0 CMC Quake in Week 16.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is the possibly best player in football, definitely best player in fantasy football right now, as he got 3 touchdowns in this one, including one where he was able to catch the ball, fall down, stay down, get up, and run in for about 15 yards out. Deebo Samuel had 2 touchdowns in this game as the Niners roll 45-29. Hollywood Brown.
Inglewood Brown.
Yeah, Marquise. Nothing. He's just done. I think his season needs to be over. He's dealing with a heel injury, and it's clearly affecting him.
Can you safely
cut him in the 16-teamer? I thought about picking him up just to play defense. I'm like, you know what? No, pick him up. Put him in your lineup. He's not getting any points right now. You can't trust him. James Conner and Trey McBride are the only 2 Cardinals you can really trust. Trey McBride has been on an absolute heater of late, but the Cardinals 3-11, they're battling for the number 1 overall pick. Kyler Murray, his job is not secure going forward. We'll see what happens. But if the Cardinals get a top-end pick, quarterback is at least in consideration. If not, they will probably go for a wide receiver or another piece of the puzzle that they really could probably use elsewhere.
Yep, CMC definitely upped 1 touchdown in his past 2 weeks combined, so he definitely put everything on the board this week as more than deserving of the number 1 overall. I know that was shared by Justin Jefferson, as a lot of people tend to think he was the one that was going to do it. But yeah, if you had him, you're probably off the semifinals if you faced him. Yeah, my condolences. And the down, you already alleged to it, feels a little bit unfair to put Marquise Brown here, but yeah, he ended up leaving the game with an injury that he failed to record a single target before his departure. This injury, combined with his extended slump going all the way back to Week 9, means that he should be left out of your lineups going forward, or in my extreme case, cutting him because he just hasn't produced squadoosh this year in fantasy.
Yeah, when people are asking if he should go on IR and the coach has to say no, he's not going to do that, you have to understand the injuries that are ailing him are significant enough to affect him. This team is done for this year, so he may sit on waivers in the 16-teamer. I'm not 100% sure yet. Like I said, I thought about picking him up just to do it, and I'm like, I don't know if that's even worth it.
It's a wastable roster spot.
Yeah, kind of. Next up, though, the Rams.
The Rams
28-20 win over the Washington Commanders, and the way the rest of the NFC is playing, they might be one of the top teams playing right now in the NFC. We have the Eagles on a long
Sam Howell's reign might have been done because the comeback came with under the tutelage of Jacob Brissett.
Howell's going to get the start next week against the Jets, but he looked bad in this one. Jacoby Brissett did get some garbage time points on the board, but the Rams, Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, dominant in this one. Matthew Stafford was projected to be a great streaming option at quarterback, and he was. The Commanders fall to 4-10. They're probably going to be a top 5 picking team. The Rams 7-7, currently in the 7 seed in the NFC, and really no hopes of winning that division because it's already been clinched by the 49ers. But the playoff race is wide open. The Rams are playing some of the best football again in the NFC, so they have a very clear path. Win out, you're in the playoffs. The Rams, though, with Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford, this offense looks good. If their defense can hold up, this could be a dangerous team in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're up definitely. Cooper Kupp, veteran, hasn't reached the heights of his previous season, but this performance was more like the Mr. Cooper that we have come to expect from the all-purpose receiver. He registered the longest play of the games, a 62-yard touchdown reception. Oh, how sweet it is. And he had an interesting quote because apparently they're going to back-to-back turf field, and Cooper was like, yeah, I don't like playing on turf. The down, What were you going to say? Go ahead before my down.
Cooper Kupp is saying they're playing back-to-back games on turf when he's playing back-to-back games at home. Not ideal, but that is what they have at SoFi.
Yeah. So down. Yep. Sam Howell, you already mentioned, benched for Brissett. Late. Howell didn't look very competent in the pocket, considering he's playing for his future, likely under the stewardship of the current offensive coordinator. Yeah, this ain't good, kids.
Yeah, Eric Bieniemy left the Chiefs to try and prove that he could be great without Andy Reid, and he is not doing so good with that. Although I will say the Chiefs offense did take a step back without him now that Matt Nagy is calling the plays. Next up,
we go to Buffalo.
I don't like the Bills, but they sure dominated the Cowboys on
you
Sunday
can say they were
night.
really cooking this week.
Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys did clinch a playoff spot by way of the Falcons' loss, but the Bills stomped the Cowboys in no uncertain terms. Josh Allen, under 100 yards passing, did have a couple passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, so salvaged a decent fantasy day. But James Cook was the story, over 200 all-purpose yards and a couple of touchdowns. The Bills, this was a statement win. Now, whether that is the fact that the Cowboys had a letdown game after dominating their big arch rival in the Philadelphia Eagles, or if the Bills are just that much better now that Joe Brady's calling the plays, that is yet to be determined. I think the Bills have been better of late, but the Cowboys definitely came out and laid an absolute egg. If you had anybody not named CeeDee Lamb on your roster, you probably were not happy if it was a Cowboy, because CeeDee Lamb at least got the touchdown. Jake Ferguson was decent, but it was really just James Cook. Like, this was just James Cook in a decent game from Lamb and Allen. The Bills, though, 8-6, still outside of the playoffs as the 9 seed, but are in a now 4-way tie with the Bengals, with the Colts, and with who was the fourth one? I don't remember it. But they're in a 4-way tie. Trust me. Who's the 8th seed right now?
Yeah, James Cook definitely was the story of the day, and for this game, as he's you want him if you're a manager. You don't want to have to be facing against him if you're on the other side. Down for this week, yeah. Tony Pollard yet again robbed of a rush attempt inside the 5-yard line in a continued point of frustration for his managers that just seems to just represent this entire season.
Yeah, Texans, the other team at 8-6. Tony Pollard has not had a rushing touchdown since week number 1. My call that he could be the number 1 running back in fantasy football was a bad call. But I didn't get any Tony Pollard this year, so I wasn't the only one wrong on that call. But the Bills, again, dominant. They have the Chargers and the Patriots the next 2 weeks. Very winnable games, and then possibly maybe even a win and win the division game week number 18 in Miami against the Dolphins. Dolphins can win their next 2, clinch the division. If the Bills win out, I think they make the playoffs. It's going to come down to that last week. I don't think 10-7 is going to be good enough because they are behind in a lot of the tiebreakers. Next up,
we go to the being dominated in Duval.
See that? I don't think that's fair to say. Yes, the Ravens won this game 23-7, but look at some of the plays that the Jaguars did. 2 missed field goals in the first half. A Trevor Lawrence ghost-caused fumble inside the red zone in the first half that should have been at least 3 points, if not more. And then an inexplicable play at the end of the half. They get down inside the 5. Instead of spiking the ball and having a couple chances, they throw something short and go down. Should have been a touchdown. That's 16 points right there. The Jaguars did not play as bad as the score indicates. The Ravens, they lost Keaton Mitchell in this game. We'll see how big of an impact that is. He was the emerging rookie in the running back who was really taking the place of J.K. Dobbins more than Justice Hill or Gus Edwards were able to. Isaiah Likely's been very good for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, decent game. Not inspiring, but a decent game for the Ravens. Trevor Lawrence did leave this one with a concussion. Travis Etienne, another down week. Jaguars fall to 8-6. They're in a 3-way tie with the Colts, Texans, and themselves at top of the AFC South. So the Jaguars went from a team battling for the 1 seed to a team that is on the ropes to win their own division when they were supposed to be far and away the class of the division. The Ravens, 11-3, clinched a playoff spot with this win. Right now, the number 1 seed. Things can go the right way, and I think they can pretty much clinch it next week. The Dolphins lose, they win. Ravens are playing the 49ers, so that's tough. And then it sets up a very big game against the Dolphins in week number 17.
Yeah, 1 up and 2 downs for this game is the up, surprisingly. Gus Bus back in service. Granted, doesn't have the volume nor the touches, and definitely end zone dependent. But yeah, you'll find out why when I get to my downs. But still has an O's for the end zone in the downs. I don't know. I know it's crazy with the Carolina matchup looming, but I tend to think Calvin Ridley officially droppable for the remainder, as he might have a decent game against the Panthers, but he has been a real disappointment for 23.
Yeah, he has. He was someone that was highly drafted. I thought after 2 years out, he's not going to be worth the risk. I turned out to be right on that one. As the Jaguars, again, 8-6. We'll see if they can hold on to a playoff spot at this point.
And
I don't know if it's going to happen.
My other down, Raven running backs are freaking cursed this year. Is Keaton Mitchell, 9 carries, 73 yards, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 15 yards, was on the way to a good day. Boom.
Yeah.
Oh, you never like seeing another ACL tear as another Ravens running back goes down. Next Raven up. Is it time for Justice?
Justice Hill, Gus Edwards are going to come up. They've called Melvin Gordon up from the practice squad. Keaton Mitchell, a torn ACL. He's going to miss the rest of this year and possibly some of the start of next season. More on the Ravens injuries in my final thoughts. Next up and final game of the week. The Seahawks steal a win from the Eagles in the final minute. 20-17 on the back of a Drew Lock to Jackson Smith-Njigba touchdown very late in regulation. The Eagles, Jalen Hurts has not thrown a touchdown pass in the last 3 weeks. Did have 2 rushing touchdowns this game, so a very good fantasy performance. Kenneth Walker missed practice day with a new shoulder injury, but was dominant in this game with over 100 all-purpose yards and a touchdown.
Zach Charbonnet, not so much.
Charbonnet, not so much, but we saw at least a little bit of life from DK Metcalf. We saw a little bit of life from Tyler Lockett. Not a lot, but we saw even with Drew Lock, this offense was able to move the ball. Geno Smith expected to come back next week. Seahawks, very tough stretch that they are just finishing up. If they can find a way to win 2 of the last 3, I think they got a very good shot of making the playoffs. Eagles 10-4, they're already in the playoffs, but the hopes of number 1 overall seed probably dead as they are a game behind San Francisco and do not have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, up definitely. Drew Lock, ice in his veins. Dude became a 2023 legend. And suddenly, crazy enough, the Seahawks look legit. The down, Jalen Hurts takes a loss and starts questioning his teammates when he was playing with an illness. So props for that. But I can imagine he's not a popular bloke with his locker room this week, as how the Eagles respond going forward will definitely determine a lot going into playoffs. Playoffs, as you have the rather curious moment when Drew Lock trying to find Jalen Hurts for a post-game handshake. I guess he's sick.
Tough loss for the Eagles. They've lost 3 in a row. And then quickly before we get to some final thoughts, looking at the playoff standings for both conferences, we'll start with the AFC, where the Ravens again have clinched a playoff spot. They are currently the number 1 overall seed at 11-3. At number 2, the Dolphins at 10-4, Chiefs 9-5, number 3, Jaguars 8-6, by way of leading the AFC South at number 4. The leader of the AFC South and NFC South combined to be 2 games above 500. That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Browns 9-5 for the 5 seed. The Bengals and Colts 6-7, both at 8-6. Behind them are the Houston Texans and the Buffalo Bills, also at 8-6 in that order. Steelers, Broncos 7-7, 10-11. Raiders, Chargers are still alive. Raiders 6-8. Chargers are 5-9, but I think they get eliminated on Saturday. Already eliminated: Titans, Jets, Patriots. In the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers at 11-3 are the number 1 overall seed. have a very good chance of holding on to that with 3 games left in tiebreakers over the other 2 teams that have clinched a playoff spot, being the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys currently the 2 seed, leading the NFC East. The Eagles number 5 by way of the number 1 wild card. Number 3 at 10-4, who has not clinched a playoff spot, even though they have the same record as 2 teams have, the Detroit Lions, who have a chance to clinch the division if they can win on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings. Buccaneers at 4 at 7-7. Number 5 seed, like I said, the Eagles already clinched the playoff spot at 10-4. Vikings, Rams 6-7, both at 7-7. Also at 7-7, the number 8 and 9 seeded Seahawks and Saints, respectively, at 10. The Atlanta Falcons 11, Green Bay Packers, both at 6-8. Giants and Bears 5-9, clinging on to hope, and eliminated the Commanders, the Cardinals, and the Panthers. So with that, let's go to Joel for final thoughts.
Final thoughts, further clarity on Arthur Smith as Falcons owner Arthur Blank to Jeff Hollinger, who I believe is the Falcons beat person, on head coach Arthur Smith's future. We're gonna play these last 3 games. We play them to win them. I think that's cue right there. And we'll let the season play out, and go from there. Obviously, this has not been the kind of year we expected. I think that one right there is the 2 key things to take away from that quote. We play them to win them. So they're looking to finish out strong, at least win the division, at least not like drop the last 3 games. And obviously, this has not been the kind of year we expected. So definite hot seat. Sure doesn't sound like a vote of confidence. Sounds like a vote of, you lost to the Panthers, so you better win the freaking division if you want a job here next year. As a mirror to that, you had the Bucs absolutely stun the Green Bay Packers, and you actually had 2 of the Glazers waiting as the team got off the field. Personally, shaking the hand of each and every person who came through, player, coach, and then hugging Coach Bowles. So definite 2 complete different pictures with coaches and their owners.
Yeah, my final thoughts are going to be the Baltimore Ravens seem to be on a cursed field at M&T Bank Stadium. Can someone check what they built this on? Because it is the knee, Achilles, ankle graveyard. I mean, we've seen Lamar Jackson each of the last 2 years get injured. How long does he have before it comes for him? Keaton Mitchell, J.K. Dobbins, multiple times for J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards had a torn ACL a couple of years ago. We just keep seeing, Mark Andrews. For whatever reason, the Ravens and M&T Bank Stadium just seems to be a house of horrors for injuries. We talk a lot about turf versus grass. M&T Bank Stadium is a grass field, but can someone check that it's not built on an Indian graveyard or a sacred site for some native tribe or something? Was it the last place the dodo ever existed and it's like just cursed as a result? I don't know, but something weird is going on at M&T Bank Stadium, and I can't explain it, but it seems like it's only attacking the Baltimore Ravens players. So if you are a player for the Baltimore Ravens or someone who's thinking about signing for the Baltimore Ravens, please have extra protection on your knees, ankles, and legs in general, because it's probably the next thing coming for you. It's kind of spooky how it's just that one team on that one field that's just injury after injury. I know it's their home field, so they're more likely to get it, but you're not seeing it from the other team. It's just very, very bizarre. And with that, that's our show. A lot of clinching scenarios this week that are super complicated. The Browns have 8 different scenarios that involve at least 2 other teams losing and the Dolphins winning. And they have to win. So we're not going to go too deeply into any of those because, they're crazy. Dolphins win the division with a win and the Bills lost, like I mentioned. Baltimore wins with a win and a Cleveland loss. Those are the simple ones. So KC wins, they clinch that division, and that's pretty much it. Detroit win and clinches the division as well. Not going to go through all the crazy wild card clinching scenarios and all that because there are some out there. But we're starting to get a picture.
Our brains will explode.
Yeah, I'll give you an example of one of the Cleveland ones. Number 1, Cleveland win plus Cincinnati loss plus Denver loss or tie plus Buffalo loss plus Miami win or tie plus Indianapolis loss or tie. That's option 1 of 8. They're convoluted. We'll find out soon enough who's going to get the wins this week. We'll be back on Saturday with our picks for week number 16. Joel is now up by 18 games as I forget how to pick games this year.
No, that's okay. Some of my picks I forgot how to pick this week too.
Yeah, it's sad. Joel can go 8-8 and still pick up 2 games on me. NFL football, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's not even against the spread. That would be so much worse.
Yeah, that's why I don't enjoy sports betting, because I'm not good against the spread, because I'm not good straight up this year. Anyways, I'm flying Ryan Gokers, who can't pick games to save his life, along with, we got to do the pick for tomorrow night real quick.
Yeah, we got to pick our nose for that game.
Yeah, Saints-Rams tomorrow night, before we forget, because I was so excited to not have to pick a game. I forgot we have to pick a game. New Orleans going to LA to face the Rams. Chris Olave will be back, so he should be in your lineup, as well as Alvin Kamara. That should probably be end of list for the Saints. For the Rams, Puka Nacua, Matthew Stafford.
You're not putting Mr. Perry on that list?
No. Cooper Kupp and Kyren Williams should all be at least considered. All three of them at the skill position should be in the lineup.
Taysom Hill still hurt?
He was back, but he only had 1 catch last week, so he's a dart throw. Again, Kyren, Puka Nacua, and Cooper Kupp have to be in the lineup. Matthew Stafford is at least an option. The Rams at home, playing some of the best football. The Saints, both teams at 7-7, so a big game for the standings. The Saints still have hopes for the division. Who gets the win, Joel?
Yeah, you tend to look at both of these teams as I tend to think it's in the Big Easy. So I know you have a hard time trusting Derek Carr, but got Olave coming back, and Rams just sort of let a stomping, so might be a bit of a letdown game for them. So I'm going crazy because the Saints are the same team that I know they've definitely had their heartbreaks, but they also had that game where they also almost came back and won against the Lions. So freaking close.
Worth mentioning, this game is in LA.
So
not the Big Easy.
Not the Big Easy. So I think then that definitely turns it around. As it's kind of hard going against the Rams at home. I know they haven't been completely perfect this year, but they're getting some of their horses back. So it's going to be a tough one. I think it's not going to be a slam dunk. And against the spread might be a good pick for the Saints, but got to go with a stronger team in this case because it's in LA and not in the Big Easy. Got to go with the Rams.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams as well. Cooper Kupp's coming back, looking good for the first time in really all season with a big game. Matthew Stafford's resurgence is real, and Kyren Williams has been dominant since coming back from injury. And now, I think the Rams defense is good enough to shut down the Saints offense more than the Saints' great defense is capable of shutting down the Rams.
Is Lattimore back yet?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, okay. Definitely Rams then.
But either way, if Lattimore's back, that just downgrades Cooper Kupp a little bit, and Puka Nacua should have a big game. I'm taking the Rams. I think they're the better team. And with that, that wraps up our show. And again, I am flying Ryan Gilchrist along with
Joel Verlin.
And we'll be back on Saturday. Rest of our picks, preview the rest of week 16, and maybe talk a little bit about our fantasy matchups if we have time. I know the pick shows tend to go a little bit longer.